Hey, what's up? Scott here from the Slow Rider channel. I think today's episode is going to be pretty interesting, something that you typically won't see. The Vulcan S that you see in a lot of my other videos was actually sold a couple of weeks ago. So what I want to do for this episode is compare the Vulcan S to this new bike. So this is a Harley-Davidson Heritage Softail. This is a 2016. It's kind of a motorcycle that's always appealed to me. I like that kind of classic look that it has. But when I first started learning to ride, I was not real confident with having a bike of this weight. I went with the Vulcan S largely due to its weight and its low seat height. I have about a 31-inch inseam on a good day, so I needed something that I could flat foot, give me a lot more confidence as a beginner. This Heritage Softail, I will have to look up the exact weight for this year, but I think it's somewhere between 750 to close to 800 pounds. So as a beginner, I was really not confident handling that kind of weight. The Vulcan S to me I was comfortable with it. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. So I thought I'd be ready at this point to move on. I think this Heritage Softail is a next logical step up. So one of the important things with a lighter bike is it's a lot less forgiving if you make a small mistake. Grabbing the front brake too hard as you're coming to a stop. Turning the handlebars while you're coming to a stop. Forgetting to put the kickstand down, which I actually did that once with the Vulcan S. Forgot to put the kickstand down and went to lean the bike over to rest on the stand. Luckily I was able to, with all my effort, I was able to catch it before it dropped on the ground. I'm guessing that a Heritage Softail or something heavier, there's probably no coming back from that. One of the things I found really interesting though is how stable this heavier bike is at slow speeds. I don't know if this is just the nature of heavier bikes or if it's something specific to the Softail. That was one of my first concerns in getting on a heavier bike like this. So I think if you were coming from a lighter weight bike to something in the 700 to 800 pound range, it's not bad at all. There are a lot of good things that come with a heavier bike. The first thing I noticed was how this bike soaks up bumps. There's a bump in the road right down the street from my house. Going over this bump at the speed limit, which is 45 miles per hour there. On the Vulcan S, I would lift out of the seat ever so slightly. The Heritage Softail, I go over that bump and it's almost like it's not even there. This bike has a very shallow lean angle. You're going to scrape those floorboards pretty easily. But if you want a comfortable ride, this bike is probably hard to beat. Another thing that's kind of strange to me though is how the Vulcan S and the Heritage Softail handle high winds or gusts. In the Vulcan S, I've really never had a problem with any kind of wind gusts. Maybe it's the aerodynamics, but it handled high winds and gusts without any issue at all. The Heritage Softail, the wind seems to come in right around the top of that gas tank where the speedometer is there. Another thing, one of my other videos, I did a review of the Vulcan S. I talked about the windshield and buffeting issues there. And this windshield on this Heritage Softail is absolutely horrible. On the Vulcan S, I was able to get up to about 55 miles per hour without too much buffering. On this Heritage Softail, with the factory windshield on, I get buffeting almost as soon as I hit 40 miles an hour. I think I'm figuring out that I just do not like windshields. This was the first bike that I've ridden that has floorboards instead of foot pegs. I really am a fan of these floorboards. These particular ones have base floorboard here. This part on the top is actually insulated, has some rubber insulators in it. So that does a real nice job of absorbing any kind of vibrations and shock. And of course it has this humongous brake pedal. We do have highway bars on here. My legs are too short to really even reach these things, so I can't really make use of these, unfortunately. I could probably adjust them in this way a bit. So these Heritage Softails come with the option to have a heel toe shifter installed from the factory. You can see this is on a basically one straight lever to shift. Usually you would pull up to shift. This heel toe shifter gives you the option to push down with your heel to shift up. The thing I don't like about this is when my foot is resting on here, especially with a thick boot on, the edge of this and the back and the front of this heel shifter kind of get in the way. I'm going to give myself a little more time to adjust to it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to remove this part, which is just removing this bolt here. While I'm down here, Harley invented this jiffy stand. This is a little different than on most other bikes. But the thing that's a little awkward is that it's so far forward that if you have short legs, it can be a little hard to reach the kickstand. So I have to really reach forward with my foot to grab it to pull it back up. So as far as the engine goes, the 2016s come with a 103 cubic inch V-twin, equivalent of 1690 cc's. The Vulcan S, I think red line on that was about 9,500 RPMs. I don't know the exact red line on this, but I think it's around 6,000, maybe even a little less. So with the Vulcan S, your power and torque is coming in 5,000 RPMs, which is almost the red line for the Heritage Softail. You get a lot more power down low. This does have a 6-speed transmission. The previous owner had put on an aftermarket air cleaner there. I believe it's called an Arlen Ness Big Sucker. Another modification is, of course, the exhaust pipes. It seems to be very rare to find a Harley-Davidson with stock OEM exhaust pipes. So these pipes are made by Rinehart. Another modification is this brake and tail light. It's actually an LED. It has a strobe module in it, so you can adjust, have it flash before the light goes solid, kind of help get people's attention. It has a luggage rack added to it, which is handy. It actually has a flag holder on the back here. I don't have the flag in right now. And this sissy bar, that's kind of neat. It's made to look like it's holding a dagger there. One of the marks of these Heritage Softails is they're going for that classic look, and of course the bags and the seat have that bedazzled look. It's not for everyone. I don't mind it. I think it kind of adds to that classic look. This seat was another addition made by the previous owner. It's a La Para. It's a really nice seat. It has a lot of gel in there and in here, and it makes the seat absolutely comfortable. You could ride all day in this thing. There is one problem, however. The gentleman that I got this from was quite a bit taller than me, and he has an extended reach seat. So it means this part of the seat is actually further back. A stock seat, this would actually be a little further out by about an inch or two. So you'd be a little further forward. I might be able to reach the highway pegs there if I had a standard seat on there. So one of the add-ons, of course, was these crash bars. Other than serving as a point to mount highway bars, they will also protect the bike somewhat should it tip over. And if you see back by this bag on each side, it also has these little crash bars on the back. So God forbid, should this thing fall over, at least this shouldn't do too much damage with those bars protecting it. This also has keep start. It has a key fob. You don't actually need to put the key in an ignition to start it. Also has a security feature, so when I turn the ignition off and the key fob is not around, if somebody gets on the bike, pulls it up, turns the handlebars or something, the lights will start flashing. I don't know that flashing lights is going to stop anybody from taking a bike if they really want to, but here's a really nice feature that I like, is cruise control. Left turn signal is on the left handle, and the right turn signal is on the right handle, which I kind of like that, actually. I think Harleys are one of the only ones, or a few bikes, to do it, but I think it's very natural. It feels like a pretty good way to do that. And these are self-canceling. Another interesting thing I noticed, I have a separate video where I talked about tar snakes and kind of poor road conditions. The Vulcan S got really squirrely over tar snakes. Heritage Softail, I hit the same tar snakes and it treats them like they're not even there. It's another thing that's kind of baffling to me, is why that is the case. And of course, lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't at least start it up for you. We have the key fob there within range. Turn the ignition on. Check that it's in neutral. This switches the starter on and off. And here's the start button. If you have any questions or anything you'd particularly like to see, go ahead and leave a comment. And soon, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, I'll have another episode up where I'm talking about one more bike that I'm going to get. I'll leave that as a little surprise for next time. If you don't mind subscribing, it's a big help. Appreciate it. And give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Thanks again for watching.